Hello everyone, I am Karen Moraine and this is a program of the Government Information Service. On Tuesday, March 4th, a technical working group on anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism was launched. It will facilitate a coordinated approach to matters related to money laundering and terrorist financing. On Tuesday, a Memorandum of Understanding was signed by all parties, solidifying the arrangement.
Senator the Honorable Winston Garvey, Permanent Secretary with responsibility for information. Attorney General, Mr. Hood. Mr. Mike Sylvester, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance. Mr. Christopher Nelson, Director of Public Prosecution. Ms. Lana McPhee, Permanent Secretary, Prime Minister's Office. Mr. Winston James, Acting Commissioner of Police. Assistant Superintendent of Police Tafawa Pierre, Head of the Financial Intelligence Unit. Members of statutory organization, other senior government officials, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I now invite the head of FIU, Mr. Tafawa Pierre, to officially welcome you and give the background on the technical working group. Mr. Pierre.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair. Attorney General Mr. Carrington Hood, Mr. Mike Sylvester, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance and Energy, Ms. Lana McPhee, Permanent Secretary, Office of the Prime Minister, Mr. Christopher Nelson, Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Winston James, Commissioner of Police, Acting Commissioner of Police, senior officials from the Ministry of Finance, members of the statutory organizations, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Will you all stand? Thank you. Please be seated. Let me welcome Prime Minister. Let me welcome you to the official launch of the Technical Working Group on Anti-Money Laundering and Combating the Financing of Terrorism and Memorandum of Understanding signing ceremony. The Financial Intelligence Unit is pleased to be a partner in the establishment of such an august group to deal with the issues concerning money laundering, terrorist financing, and its attendant problems. The genesis of this notion originated from the Financial Action Task Force recommendation, which suggests that a mechanism be instituted at the national level to allow law enforcement and other relevant competent authorities to cooperate and coordinate domestically. Additionally, own legislation speaks specifically to the development of a similar group. It is well established that no single agency can unilaterally deal with the issues at hand. What is therefore required is a multi-dimensional approach. At this stage, I wish to recognize the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating the Financing of Terrorism Commission for agreeing to collaborate on this initiative. The parties to this group thus far are the Chambers of the Attorney General, the Royal Grenada Police Force, Chambers of the Director of Public Prosecution, Customs and Excise, the Inland Revenue Department, the Airport Authority, Postal Corporation, and the Financial Intelligence Unit. Each of the parties plays a critical role in the anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism regime within this jurisdiction. What we seek to do is to bring our efforts together to create the appropriate synergy to allow for efficiency and effectiveness, and ultimately to mitigate against current and impending risk. We believe that it's essential to formalize the arrangement between the parties through the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding, so as to provide appropriate guidelines for multi-agency operations, information sharing, and most importantly, to ensure that the ideals of the group remain constant. Additionally, it is imperative that we send the right message to the international community that Grenada will spare no effort in playing its part in the global fight against money laundering and the financing of terrorism. The strategic objectives for the group are to facilitate a coordinated approach on security issues relating to money laundering and terrorist financing, supporting and conducting multi-agency operations, to identify and harness experts within the various agencies, collating and sharing pertinent information in a timely manner, to identify and advise on relevant legislative improvements that can affect the operation of the various agencies, and to discuss and formulate guidelines and policies based on current trends in an effort to mitigate security threats, and in particular, money laundering and terrorist financing. Let me conclude by commending the stakeholders for answering the call to partners' most important matter. On behalf of the FIU, we pledge to render unfettered support for this venture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pierre. The Anti-Money Laundering Commission is an integral part of this initiative. Attorney General Cadrington Hood is the chairman of this commission. I hereby invite him to make a few brief remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. In particular, the Honorable Prime Minister, fellow members of the AML CFT Commission, and we are joined by additional persons who would now form part of the technical working group. Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, I want to commend the head of the FIU, Mr. Pierre, for giving such a precise and informative, very short, informative speech regarding the context within which this signing ceremony is being placed. There isn't much more I can say on that. At the Commission, we meet on a monthly basis. And the Commission, as he indicated, is composed of Customs, Police, DPP's chambers, AG's chambers, GAFIN, representation from the public service at permanent secretary level. And basically, our meetings will entail setting certain policy issues, looking at reports, in general, a review of the finance, because the banks are involved, insurance companies, the money remittance people, like the the persons who cause all of the problems. I'll tell you what I mean just now. And we look at the different policy agendas. It is extremely crucial that there be a working group who would meet on a more regular basis and who would be more in touch with the issues on the ground and would be able to feed information into the commission. It's crucial. Whenever you have a commission, as we have, you need what you call a working group, a group that actually will do more of the work, the hard work on the ground. And that's the reason why we have a working group. So we are very happy that we have the Postal Corporation on board in that working group, that we have the Airports Authority involved, and we also have the Inland Revenue involved, together with some other members of our commission. Mr. Pierre touched on issues relating to the Financial Action Task Force, and he spoke about recommendations. I would extend it a bit to say that the United Nations is also involved in that fight against money laundering and terrorism. And strange enough, and I do not want us to confuse the issues, the FF and the regional group, which is CFATF, calls what they say recommendations. The United Nations would call their decisions resolutions. Do not get confused with the terminology. Recommendations are as strong as rules. Resolutions are as strong as rules. They put it in a nice way so that we do not think that they are forcing themselves upon us. But once we are not compliant with the rules, then we get blacklisted. Presently, Ghana throes of a crisis because the whole process has been politicized. And the necessary legislation that needs to go through Parliament can't go through Parliament because the opposition party refused to agree. And Ghana now is blacklisted. Ghana will be reported to the FATF, and then the kind of consequences that will follow will be dire. And I'm making that point to say that we need the support of the wider public in general for the initiatives. We have been reviewing several legislations, several pieces of legislations. There are certain declarations that are required in the banks and other financial dealings that might seem to be cumbersome and awkward. We are reviewing them. We are conscious of the stringencies that have been placed on the general public. Believe me, some of them are absolutely necessary. Just be reminded that if you begin to think that we have no terrorists in Grenada, remember that the financial sectors are linked by information technology. So someone can remain whatever part of the world and have a transaction done or pass through Grenada to make it appear to be legitimate. And hence we have to be concerned. What happens over there affects us, and we got to remember that. So I'm saying that for the benefit of the general public. There is something that I know the director, you and myself, or the head of FIU and myself have been talking about over and over again. This issue of money remittances. And it's a very, very difficult area to control. We have noticed a trend that money is laundered through that means, whether from illicit sources like drug dealings through money remittances, the little $2,000, $4,000 on a regular basis. And there is these scams. I believe you know what I'm talking about. Somebody's met on the internet and they fall in love, and then all of a sudden there's an inheritance, and then you need to send some money for legal fees. You understand what I'm talking about? There is a promise of tens of dollars, or somebody sends you an email saying, oh, look, you've won a few $1 million in a lottery, and you have to send $5,000 to collect it. Do you know where this money is going? Do you know what that money is going to be used for? I don't know. You don't know. And I remember a few months ago, I wouldn't call the person's name, a prominent lawyer visited my chambers on behalf of his client, claiming that I am holding up a transaction in Africa on behalf of his client, who is supposed to get some great inheritance. And the AG in Grenada is supposed to send some communication to the AG in somewhere in Africa to enable the transaction to happen. I chased him from my office, actually. Because I asked him if he had spoken to FIU and FIU firm that they had indicated that it was a fraudulent transaction. So I am saying that we need to be careful. The safeguards that are put in place, we believe, are necessary. And I know that the FIU is in contact with the banks and the other financial dealers, and we are listening to your concerns. Whatever relief can be granted, we'll do our best. It will have to go to the Parliament to make the adjustments. But thank you for turning out today. And I trust that we have everybody on board, and we'll work very hard to make Grenada a safe place for financial transactions and a place where the world will realize is open for proper, legitimate business. I thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your support and important words of wisdom. We have come to a very important part of this ceremony, which is the official launching of the Technical Working Group. I now take this opportunity to invite the Honorable Prime Minister to make a few remarks and officially launch this group.
Thank you, Brother Chairman. Attorney General, Mr. Kajdan Hood, Head of the FIU, Assistant Superintendent of our peer, Commissioner of Police, Director of Public Prosecution, other distinguished brothers and sisters, members of the Technical Working Group, AML CPT, distinguished members, ladies and gentlemen all. I think you have received enough information about this entire initiative from both Assistant Superintendent of our peer and the Attorney General. So I don't intend to have to say a lot more on the specific aspect of the work, but just to make the point that we are all aware that we are living in the global village. And none of us, or no country, can believe that it's immune from what is taking place internationally and regionally. And therefore, any initiative that is undertaken to ensure all work together and do our share to combat some of the ills of our modern-day global village must be seen as a very positive step in the right direction. I therefore want to compliment the groups that have already agreed to be part of this cooperative effort, and to say that we expect the groups will choose the individual representative to ensure that we get the best working relationship and the results from this important initiative that we are embarking on today. It might be the feeling that we are dancing to other person's tune, but in my view that we are also dancing to our own tune. Because if we are really going to be talking about proper governance and bringing the best results to our people, we have to have the level of cooperative that can ensure that we have the best results as far as the whole issues of crime in a general sense is concerned, because one could assume that if you do not deal with the problems that we see regionally and to your side, meet your side of the bargain, it is highly likely that in your own country you'll be failing to do some of the fundamental things to protect the society and the rules of our society. So I believe we're not doing this just by some outside bodies or institution. We're also doing it for our own society and by implication our children and our grandchildren. We can't just talk about good governance and don't do the things that ensure good governance. It is significant that on Thursday we are going to Parliament and will be, at least the Law House will be passing some important bills that would aid the effort that is being initiated here today. The proceeds of crime bill that we heard a lot being talked about. We have to strengthen it and to ensure we can maximize the end product to the point that will make it more and more risky for individuals to be involved in this activity, in criminal activity. So that is going to be there. There are also important other rules and acts that we are taking to Parliament, which of course will strengthen Grenada's hands in dealing with our regional and international responsibilities. That has also been done on Thursday. But this morning, I had the responsibility or the opportunity to declare my assets before the Integrity Commission. It might look as if there's no relationship, but they're all related. They're all related. There's a connectivity issue here, and you know the word connectivity is being used and all sorts of things these days. We in fact, this morning, started a process of declaration of assets of those of us who occupy serious position in government, not just the political directorate, but the important offices of government. So I see all of this, to me, making this point to say that some of us may talk a lot about governance, but talk a lot about integrity and honesty, but we do not give effect to those words. We are saying that we are, in this government, giving practical effect to those words. And therefore, I'm particularly proud today to be part of this important launching. And I want to compliment the leadership of the FIU for its role in this important exercise, the Attorney General's office, all the major institutions, of course, our police force in general, and all the major players involved, DPP's office, of course, the Custom, Inland Revenue, all important institutions, colleagues. I'm happy to be part of this, and therefore, with the presence of so many of you, I've seen so many of our press people. I saw them this morning, and again see them here. It tells me that you want to bring the information to the people of the country, and I think it's a good sign that you are giving this initiative here the seriousness that it deserves. So I take this opportunity to formally launch the technical working group, which of course will put Grenada on the proper footing to demonstrate that we are serious about playing our important role in protecting our societies in this global village. So, once again, formally, I launched this important initiative here today. Thank you all, and good morning, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for your stewardship and support. This ceremony will be incomplete without the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, which would guide the operation of these groups. We invite the parties to sign the MOU. Please remain seated. The document will be taken to you. We have witnessed the signing from Postal Corporation, Airport Authority, Inland Revenue is representative is presently signing. We now have the Controller of Custom, Mr. Carl Felix. Acting Commissioner of Police, Mr. Winston James. The Public Prosecution, Mr. Christopher Nelson. Head of FIU, ASP Tafawa Pierre. Attorney General, the Honorable Carrington Hood. It's always important to express gratitude. Let me now thank the Honorable Prime Minister for gracing us with his presence, making remarks, and officially launching this group. The Attorney General for his remarks and support. Special thanks to the parties of the MOU and their commitment to the process. Our appreciation to all government invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, thank you for coming.
The proceeding featured the launch on Tuesday of the Technical Working Group on Anti-Money Laundering and Countering the Financing of Terrorism. Thank you for viewing.